Hello, welcome to Elle, Karen, and Mare. And my name is Chris Chappell. As you can see, I'm the Doshi of Indic and Comparative Theology and the founding director of the Master of Arts in Yoga Studies at Loyola Marymount University. And what we will cover today, I have my colleague on screen here, Aaron Ressler, who's the program coordinator for the program, and Emily Haney, who is an admissions counselor for our graduate division. And then a couple of other folks will be joining us. Professor Zoe Slatoff will come in later, as well as a current graduate student, Sheila June Azim. So what we'll cover is the basics of both our graduate program and our continuing education programs, and they are in many ways intertwined and linked. And I want to just start out by offering you an invitation if you are in Los Angeles to attend our annual Yoga Day, which will convene on Saturday, November 8th on campus. And then a week from that Monday, we will be hosting a film called To Kill a Tiger that we're co-sponsoring with a number of other departments and organizations that highlights the need to find one's voice when championing um, for basic human safety and basic human rights. And it's centered around a village in India documented, an event documented there by the filmmaker who will be joining us. So we always have lots going on, and Yoga Day will include um, over a half dozen professors talking about the role of the guru throughout history and in modernity. It will also include several different choices of meditation and yoga movement activities, as well as a really quite wonderful concert toward the end of the day. So it's 9 in the morning till 6:30 in the evening, and we hope that if you're local, that you could join us for part of this. And in hopes that maybe a couple other people will join in the next couple of minutes, I'm just going to talk first a little bit about the origins of this program, a little bit about my own origins, then lay out the curriculum. Then I would love to have an opportunity for each of you to share what brought you here, and then we can answer any and hopefully all questions that might arise. So why yoga at a university? And as many people of my generation, yoga happened to me as a teenager in the 1960s in a way that changed my life, changed it really forever. And for 12 very intense sadhana years, while my wife and I were also going to college and graduate school in our first jobs. So from our late teens right up to the age of 30, we were in a community established by a woman from Calcutta called Anjali. And this community was dedicated to living and teaching the vision of yoga as she had received it in Calcutta as a child in the 1940s and 50s. So, what I'd like to position what we do here in America is that I'm part of really the second wave. And Professor Slatoff, who will be joining us, and to an extent, Aaron as well, are sort of a little bit more the third wave. But the first wave was when Swami Vivekananda and his colleagues came to the Parliament of the World's Religions in 1893. And he lived for a time in Pasadena, where he composed the classic works Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Raja Yoga. And then shortly thereafter, in 1920, Paramahamsa Yogananda settled in the United States. But then, guess what? Asian exclusion. So from 1920 to 1965, a good 45-year span, no immigration from Asia, only immigration from Europe. So that was a little bit of a dry spell that ended with the civil rights movement in 1965 when immigration laws allowed people from all nations, all continents to settle in the United States, and Indians did in large number. Of the many yoga teachers that came in the 60s, it was very interesting because some of them are names that you probably recognize: Swami Vishnudevananda, Swami Satchidananda, Swami Rama, Amrit Desai. They were all men, except for, as far as I've been able to figure out, my own teacher, who was a woman. And she was homebound, raising three children on Long Island. And we were really blessed. It was a small community of about 100 people, and we had a number of different businesses, including a restaurant, an art gallery, a bookstore, a community education center, all on the South Shore of Long Island. As I said, I was also in college and in my PhD program at Fordham University doing psychology of religion, Sanskrit, having started graduate school with many years of the study of both Tibetan language and Sanskrit language, and did my dissertation on the intersection of Buddhist philosophy and Vedanta Hindu philosophy through the prism of a text called the Yoga Vasishta. And many years have expired, or gone by, I should say. The years linger in our collective memories. But from the launch of my career when I got my PhD in 1980 to now, seems really fast. But in those 45 years, I've published about 30 books and taught lots of people, primarily at Loyola Marymount, but a few years at the start at Stony Brook University on Long Island, and then also through Yoga Glow, through the Oxford Center for Hindu Studies, and various other places. So in the 90s, as I was really finding my stride as a tenured professor, this third wave of yoga came about. And instead of these men holding forth like Yogi Bhajan, and if you've seen some of the Netflix stuff, it wasn't all that great. But what happened was two things. One, there was a rise of women, and Amici, the hugging guru, became very, very popular in the 90s. And one of my very first students at LMU in 1985 was her tour manager. And Amici's base was right adjacent to our campus because Clancy Fish, as she was then known, she knew Westchester, and it's right by the airport in Los Angeles. So the hugging guru. And then the other was Swami Chidvilasananda, known as Guru Ma-E. And that womanist sort of teaching felt very safe, particularly for women. And then another phenomenon happened in this third wave, and Professor Zoe Slatov was part of this. There were a number of people that would travel 6 months at a time, as long as their visas would allow, to India to study with the disciples primarily of Krishnamacharya, namely BKS Iyengar, his own son Deshikachar, and Professor Patabi Joyce. Patabi Joyce's granddaughter is a member of our current cohort, having done her dance degree at LMU. But those different ways of, Iyengar yoga, of the quote Ashtanga yoga, of Vini yoga, as taught by Deshikachar, that simultaneously gave birth to the studios. And here, nearby in Santa Monica, Yoga Works, On a Forest Academy Yoga, so many different business models emerged. And as second wave, like it was always, no, you're a nonprofit organization. You're basically like a congregation. You have an educational mission and a spiritual mission. But no, all of that got blown out of the water by the studio model. And it's great. It gets people going, it gets people started. And we've also seen that it more or less went through some radical changes during the pandemic and after the pandemic. And what happened in the 90s is that people in the LA community sort of sought me out and said, "Oh, you know Sanskrit, you know philosophy, you had a guru, you seem like a nice enough person, and you know you're respectable, and all those good things." So I said, "Okay." And in this humble abode here, Laura Dern, it was so funny because once in a while when you get fancy people and they show up in this normal neighborhood, they're like, "Oh." But Laura Dern came every third Wednesday night, and we met from 1996 to 2001. And we gathered in the living room of this house, and we went sutra by sutra by sutra through the entire 196 aphorisms by Patanjali on yoga, working from a text that my colleagues at the ashram had co-created over a 7-year period at the ashram in Amityville, New York. It was published, it was widely used, published in India, and out of that came sort of a momentum, particularly after September 11th, 2001, a momentum to do more. And at the core of yoga is a commitment to peace, a commitment to nonviolence. And in the midst of worldly turmoil, and worldly turmoil continues, but what Gandhi said is that we have to develop a stabilized wisdom in order to be of service to ourselves, in order to stand up and to be of service to others. So I'll be there with my sign, No King's Day, on Saturday in the Gandhian tradition. And I will step away if things, I mean, our neighborhood is really calm and chill, but our, you know, it's not, the Gandhian mission was not to provoke rioting. So just to give sort of current events connections, and that's, you know, a personal commitment on my part. But earlier in the day, I'll be joining various members of our community and the community of Insight Los Angeles in an outdoor eco restoration project up in Downton Canyon, which is a sub canyon within Benedict Canyon above Beverly Hills. And that echo work is just so very restorative. So peace, how do we find peace? How do we teach peace? And in 2002, we launched the Yoga Philosophy Certificate Program, which is still going on, and you could join it. Actually, you could join my Buddhist reflections class on the Heart Sutra a week from Sunday and start that certificate, because you have to do at least one of our many certificates as part of your MA program. But what that certificate requires is 20 hours of Sanskrit, about 20 hours of the Yoga Sutra, 10 hours of the Bhagavad Gita, 10 hours of the Sankhya, 10 hours of the Bhagavad Gita, and then 5 electives. And you can take these things in any order. And the electives that I'm offering this year are all related to Buddhist meditation. And I'm sort of a polyglot when it comes to spirituality. I've been teaching world religions and comparative mysticism for decades and decades. And I decided I would just do a Buddhist theme this year that convenes in person and on Zoom on Sunday mornings, 8 to 10 Pacific time. So Aaron will soon release the link to sign up for that if that catches your interest. So after we had developed other certificates such as yoga and ecology, yoga Vinyasa Krama teacher training with Ramaswamy, yoga therapy, a 4-year program with Larry Payne. And we had certificated more than 1,000 people. The university said, oh, maybe you could think about a graduate program. So we launched the Master of Arts in the fall of 2013. And we're gathering a cohort that will be, I don't know, number 13 or 14 to start in the fall. And in this journey, we ask the following. Okay, we ask everybody to come to LA for 2 weeks in August. And during those 2 weeks, we meet for in person, 6 hours a day. I lead a sadhana class. Professor Slatoff guides you through Tracing the Path of Yoga by Professor Stuart Sarbacher. And you come up with an idea that will manifest in a paper that you will hand in sometime in November. But also during the time of this class, we do field trips and we go to historic sites. We go to the Yogananda Center. We go to the Vedanta Center. We go to the Hare Krishna Center that was amply funded by George Harrison and is a really thriving, interesting community. They also have a restaurant. We also go to the Walk Good Yard, and one of our students, who's a feature at Yoga Day, during the pandemic, began to gather people outdoors to do yoga. And she built, her name is Marley Ralph, and she built this experience, this freely offered experience, into 400 people on the weekend. And eventually Michael B. Jordan, okay, I'm dropping lots of Hollywood names so that, you'll say, oh, I'm going to be in California. But Michael B. Jordan underwrote the renovation of this amazing space that we visit. And she does community outreach to all different populations, does these beautiful candlelight ceremonies that are musical. But we'll visit with her studio. Then the next day, that's a Saturday, then the next day we go out to Ojai. And Mayor Baba, who was a great inspiration in my life back in the 1960s and 70s, visited Ojai and spoke there. And we made pilgrimage to a site where he lectured. And it's around an old oak tree. And then we head from there to Krishnamurti's house. And Krishnamurti, originally from India, was discovered by the founders of the Theosophical Society, was trained to become really the avatara for the 20th century. And he cut his ties, but nonetheless, 70 years. He lectured, living a third of the time in Ojai, a third of the time in England, and a third of the time in India. And I had the good fortune of hearing him in India in 1981. In his house is totally exquisite. And then from there, we go to a yoga studio founded by one of our graduates, where she conducts teacher trainings, and she's rated the best yoga teacher in the Ojai Valley. And she creates just a beautiful ambiance and experience for us before we go over to Crotona, which is the Theosophical Society's library and school. And from there we go. Okay, so the first day we do Hare Krishna food for lunch, we do South Indian food for dinner, and then we do nice takeaway food on Sunday. But what we do is have Tibetan food in the evening on Sunday, and then you come back, finish the week out, go home, and get ready. And then if you're an LA person, you show up for class Mondays and Wednesdays from 4 to 7. And if you're a remote person, you Zoom in Mondays and Wednesdays from 4 to 7. And if you're European, you most likely will watch this after the fact. And if you miss something during Sanskrit class, all classes are recorded, projected in live time, but also video archived. So you will be able to sign on and review and catch any nuance that may have slipped by you the first time around. And the curriculum. I'm going to do the quick version of the curriculum, which is the 2-year version. Foundations, you've started in August, technically in the summer. Fall, the first Monday of August, you do Sanskrit and Yoga and Health Science 1. The spring semester, you do Sanskrit 2, and you also take a Hatha Yoga class and Yoga Philosophy Text and Practice, which is subtitled Hinduism, Vedanta, Yoga. And we read the Rig Veda, the Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Sankhya, building toward the Yoga Vasishta. Then that takes you to the beginning of May. And then in the middle of May, you start a 6-week intensive, twice a week, 4 to 7, class in Buddhism, vis-a-vis yoga, for 6 weeks. And then you go straight into a 6-week graduate seminar in Jain yoga. And Jainism or Jainism is a little known religion, older than Buddhism, a cousin religion of both Hinduism and Buddhism. And Jainism, at its core, requires an ongoing lifestyle commitment to nonviolence in thought, word, and deed. So we learn about how they developed their vegetarian diet. We learned about their cosmology, and we also learn about their philosophical commitment to be gentle. Then you get a couple weeks off. You could go on the field trips again if you really want to, but you get a few weeks off. And then the second fall, you do comparative mysticism, yoga, mindfulness, and social change in Sanskrit 3. And in this fastest version, you then get the spring semester to create your MA thesis. We've had many people. We have one person that's doing her MA thesis on Malakam, which is a type of aerial yoga adjacent physical activity that she will go to India and study for several weeks. And we also have people that have, for instance, delved into Narasimha, that image of half lion, half man, and really amazing MA thesis that you can watch on our YouTube video channel. And what he now is doing his PhD up at GTU Berkeley, pursuing a very particular practice related to Narasimha in Andhra Pradesh on the east coast of India. So you're done. Another pathway is to make it 3 years and let it go by a little bit less intensely. Instead of doing 3 courses a semester for those 3 semesters, you would do 2. And you could also embed in, if the therapeutic side is what really floats your boat, you could embed in a concentration perhaps on the yoga therapy pathway. And we offer, through continuing ed and through relationships that we've established with ongoing yoga therapy teachers, a way, if you would like, to become certified with the International Association of Yoga Therapists, or perhaps just really do something practical. One of our students who is very avid in the yoga therapy space is working on grief and is actually positioned at a prominent hospital in Orange County to get practicum hours. So those things are also a little bit available to us. And then I'm going to talk about the certificate programs. I've already talked about the yoga philosophy one, and then ask each of the four of you to introduce yourself, and then have both Aaron, who graduated from the program, and Sonia, who is currently in the program, talk a little bit, and then we'll be open for questions. So the certificates, about 100 hours, some are 50, some are 100. One of the certificates, which is a 50-hour certificate, is taking place in India. And we depart December 5th, you get back December 21st or 22nd, and we still have two openings. So if you decide, oh, I just want to do this right now, and we're landing in Chennai, which is South India, going south to Pondicherry, which is the old French colony, the place where Aurobindo lived the remainder of his life in free from British sedition charges. And we have a really beautiful relationship with an Institute for Salutatory and Complementary Medicine embedded within the Mahatma Gandhi Hospital, really vast, complex, and medical school. It reminds me of Cedar Sinai, except that you end up with like UCLA Medical School in there too. And the unique thing about this school is that every patient is given the option of being paired with a yoga therapist for maximum recovery and healing. And we'll spend about a week there and wonderful cultural immersion. Then we'll travel up through Pune to a town called Lonavala and be at our second week at Kaivalyadam. And Kaivalyadam Institute was founded 101 years ago and came out with the very, very first scientific studies. And there's adorable photographs of Indira Gandhi and her father. Both were prime ministers of India, learning about the research on yoga being undertaken there. And this is actually the center where Mahatma Gandhi learned practices of yoga. And Mahatma Gandhi also took initiation from Paramahansa Yogananda when Yogananda was visiting from the United States. So very historic. Then you could either stay on or go home and in time for Christmas. So yoga philosophy, yoga educational journey focusing on yoga therapy. Another certificate in process now is yoga, mindfulness, and social change. And it really looks at sort of the personal issues of body image, but it also looks at social issues such as how yoga philosophy and lifestyle can really help to enhance environmental and personal resilience. There's a whole array of topics. And if you wanted to just dip your toe in the water, and Aaron may be able to speak to this, there are several segments of this, and you can come in just for a weekend and get a sense of the conversation in that area. We have partnerships with various teacher training programs, one conducted by Eden Goldman at University of Southern California, another conducted by Francesca, who I mentioned, has the yoga studio in Ojai. And in the yoga philosophy certificate, we also have a therapeutics component, and that Aaron and Avaidya are this week launching a 10-hour course on Ayurveda. We have another course in process that's about the application and the efficacy of yoga in spaces of addiction and recovery. We're actually doing quite activities this semester with both our athletics population and our recovery population. And one of the beauties about being at a university campus is that you become part of the formation of these really tender young people, and they believe me, they need all the help that they can get. Um, so let me first ask Al, then Karen, then Mare, and then I don't know if Mare is doubling as M, but there may be another person out there. So let's start with Al. If you could unmute and tell us who you are and what brought you here.
Hi, I'm Elle, and so nice to meet you. I live in LA, so I'm very close by, and I am a yoga teacher. I teach in the recovery space, so mental health, and so that's more sort of my interest is in yoga therapy. Um, and that's what drew me to the program. I also have a love of languages, so I'm very
Ah,
interested in deepening my knowledge of Sanskrit, and um, that I find really interesting. I was looking at the certificate in yoga philosophy, which I think includes, as you mentioned, the
it does
Sanskrit
include Sanskrit.
piece.
Yes, yes.
So the thought of a whole master's is a little daunting. So I'm not entirely sure about that, but I am very interested, and I wanted to hear more and learn more about where that could take me potentially. I have a deep interest in bringing programs into hospitals. As a parent of a chronically ill child, that's something that really draws me to be able to offer um, yoga in the ways that it's restorative in that space for caregivers. So these are all the things that drew me here. I also really I saw your Buddhist Sunday morning program. I'm also in a program with Tara Brock and Jack
Oh, yeah,
Kornfeld. And so
yeah.
I have a deep interest in that as well. I'm interested in everything. So that's my problem. But
Okay, that's great.
I'm not entirely sure about diving into a full master's program with a thesis, and all of that seems a little bit academic heavy, and I'm more of a organic learner. So maybe you could speak to that a little bit. Like tests and things like that are kind of it's a lot for me.
Okay, well, Professor
So
Sladoff has just come on. She's our Sanskrit professor. We're going to let her speak a little bit about Sanskrit. But I do want to say that many of our thesis projects are actually studies of therapeutic applications. So it need not be utterly, totally abstract. And I would encourage you to, Tara Brock was a yoga teacher many years. I'm sure she has shared. And Jack Cornfield, he's very local much of the year. So I've been part of Inside LA, which is sort of the outgrowth of Spirit Rock well, since it started happening in LA over 20 years ago. So yeah, all of these connections are really great. The advantage to an MA in yoga studies, and my hat goes off to Kari Rossberry, one of our students, who is soon to receive tenure at Southwestern College in San Diego and is actually lobbying Sacramento for yoga studies BA programs to be offered at community colleges because there's no state university, no UC that offers this training. And it would be remarkable. But we have several students who have graduated from the program and they're teaching like at USC full time. They're teaching at various community colleges. They're teaching actually at LMU. We have 3 people that are teaching yoga within our dance department, and they have job stability. They don't have to do the advertising, and they get health benefits, and they get potentially retirement. So, the professionalization is really at the core of the vision here. And having myself been transformed as a college student, I think that, it's a pathway that will continue to evolve. But thank you for that question about the certificates. And in a minute, Zoe will speak to the study of the Sanskrit language. And Al, where did you go to college? Have you finished like a BA somewhere?
Yes, I have a degree in something that's totally not able to
Yeah.
translate into any career. I majored in French and political science. So,
Oh, cool, cool. Where
yeah,
did you go to school?
I went to Marquette University
Oh, yeah,
uh,
another
in
Jesuit
Wisconsin.
university.
Yes,
Sure. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Awesome.
The
Very cool.
Jesuits, all
So,
they love that study everything. So that fit for me.
yeah, yeah, whole person. Great,
Yes.
great.
Mhm.
Mm.
Okay, Karen, are you able to unmute?
And I will just say, when we do get to me, I will also speak to your test question. So I'm holding that one. Hi.
Okay, good. Okay, Karen, I think we can hear you now.
Oh, hi. Sorry, I don't, my camera for some reason doesn't want to go on, but my name is Karen and I've been practicing yoga for about 10 years now. And I actually heard about the MA program at LMU through my yoga teacher. One of my yoga teachers was telling me about it, and then I went on your website and looked up different things and found out about the certificate yoga philosophy certificate program. And so I'm actually currently taking the yoga sutra class with Dana.
Oh, good.
And yeah, so I'm taking that Sunday mornings, which so far has been awesome. So interesting. I've learned so much. Yeah, so I'm just here to find out more, about what are the differences between the MA program, between the yoga philosophy certificate, and yeah, just interested in learning more about the various programs you guys offer.
Fantastic. And are you local here in LA?
Yes, uh-huh.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And do you have an undergraduate degree?
Yeah, I have an undergraduate degree in psychology and actually I have a PhD in psychology as well. So,
Oh, cool. Which schools did you study?
undergrad was UCLA, and then I got my graduate degree from school. At the time, it was called California School of Professional Psychology,
Sure.
and now
Yeah.
it's called Alliant University. So,
Yes, I know of it well. And you would not be alone. We've had many MDs, PhDs, lots of different people with lots of qualifications. And one of the beautiful things about the certificate programs is that anybody is welcome into the certificate. So when we launched the certificates back in 2002, we would have 25 people in the room in St. Robert's at LMU. And, we had carpenters that were building Playa Vista sitting alongside tenured professors of sociology. It was just so cool. But
wow,
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, great. Okay, Mayor Wilk dash IL.
Hi, let me come off or on video here.
Ah,
Hi
there you
to
are.
everybody,
Hello.
and hi, doctor. Thank you for this opportunity to check out the system or the program. I am older and relatively new, 5 years into my yoga practice. I work with Veterans Yoga Project, so I am 200. I'm working towards my 500 right now. And the master's program was a little bit more compelling to me because I'm interested in the approach, the formal learning process instead of what we typically get through studios. I have a bachelor's degree in information technology management. I am retired combat military veteran.
Mhm.
So yoga came to me later in life as a therapy modality, and I'm finding my evolving in this practice, creating a completely different person from my very kinetic and aggressive adult life in my prior occupation. And Loyola Marymount also participates in the GI Bill. So it was a unique opportunity for me to maybe pursue more education in a field that has given me so much. And I do a lot of guiding right now about 8 classes a week for fellow veterans, for first responders, family members, community. So all of my work is volunteer, and it's on a trauma sort of sensitive approach. And I've enjoyed really learning, growing, healing in this part of my journey. But
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yes.
thank you. So thank you for the opportunity, not only to introduce myself, but to learn about this program. So
Yeah, and we've had many veterans over the years, and the GI Bill is such a blessing for us and people that are able to make it through the program. We currently have a vet who is also a vet, meaning that she has her DVD, her Doctor of Veterinary DVM, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, and she will be on our yoga therapy India trip. One of the early cohort members was, and I hope he held on to his job. I haven't heard recently, but he relocated with his young family to Fort Bragg in North Carolina as a full-time yoga therapist working on the camp, on the base, and many stories to tell. But yes, and we're a really friendly campus for veterans, so that would be amazing. Okay, and M.
Yeah, hi, I'm Maya. I was actually at last week's info
Oh,
session. I
right,
thought that this
Maya.
was
Okay,
this different. So, hi, good to see you again. Thank you.
okay. So we didn't bore you too much. No.
No, I was just interested in getting as much information as possible. And I'm sorry, my internet
Terrific.
has been out, so I can't turn my camera on right now.
Great. Okay, so Maya was with us before, but remind us, Maya, where you are and your yoga thing so that the newcomers can know a little bit about you.
Yeah, I have my 200-hour teacher training. I'm originally from Ohio, and I got my bachelor's in musical theater from Otterbein University. And yeah, just I got my 200-hour last year, so just a new yoga teacher.
Fantastic. And where are you living now, Maya?
Oh, sorry, I'm in Los Angeles.
In Los Angeles. I thought so. Yeah. Okay, take it away, Zoe. And Sheila June, you have to remember musical theater. Okay, we'll get back to you. Okay.
Made it to the 405. Um, all right. Hi everybody. Nice to meet you. Um, so yeah, I will tell you a bit about myself and what I teach. But Elle's question is sticking in my mind, so maybe I'll even just start
Okay.
there because I just came from teaching Sanskrit class that Sheila June and Sunya were in. And at me, hopefully they will back me up. That we don't actually have a lot of test taking in our program. We do have paper writing, but we do that, we help you get back into that. So this summer I taught the foundations class, which is where everybody gathers to start together in person for 2 weeks. But we've been writing a paper that goes into the fall. So everybody gets to write a proposal and then a first draft, which I give feedback on and meet with people about, and then a final draft eventually. So we're very aware that pretty much everybody, almost everybody in our program not everybody, but almost has been out of school for a while. So we really try to help you get back into paper writing. In Sanskrit, I give quizzes, but they're worth 3 points each, and I give an extra credit that is worth 1 point. So you can get a 65 on the quiz and still get 100 on the quiz. And the reason I do this, full disclosure, is because it's not about that. I want you to fall in love with Sanskrit. I want you to, be immersed and fall in love with the language and the learning and the texts. And, again, Sheila June and Sunya can attest that I will never tell you that it's easy. But I do hope that you will find that it's, fun and, and you will start to see, like, you look back at the things we did a few months ago and it's like, wow, I can do that now. We are now reading Sanskrit. And, it just kind of happens. And so, again, I won't promise that it's easy, but I will tell you that I am, here holding your hand. We are, and helping you get into it. And, all of a sudden, I always talk about it being like throwing you off the deep end, but all of a sudden you are swimming. And so we are here to help you swim. And so, don't let that be a reason to not do it, because the majority of our students are non-traditional students in that sense. And, I will tell you, my journey in academia has also been that way. I grew up in New York. I studied engineering originally at Cooper Union. After 2 years, I quit because they asked me what kind of engineer I wanted to be. And I thought, oh, I don't want to be an engineer. What do you mean? So I then went to India, to Mysore to study Ashtanga with Patabi Joyce, who was my teacher. I'd met him while he was in New York teaching for a month. And at the end, he said, come to Mysore. And I said, okay. So I went to Mysore for 5 months. I went back and forth for many years. He was also a Sanskritist, and so I would hear he knew pretty much everything as far as I'm concerned by heart, because that's the traditional method is memorization. And I was just so curious. So I started studying, and I studied in India for a while. I studied on my own, and eventually went back to school at Columbia and finished my undergrad. And actually thought I was going to study neuroscience, but took two Sanskrit classes actually, with a wonderful professor, Gary Tubb, who I was just corresponding with, and who, yeah, I just decided this is what I want to do. So I finished my undergrad. I enrolled, I applied and then was in a PhD program at Columbia, and then left after the master's for various reasons. But one of them was that I started a yoga studio in New York, which I had for many years, on the Upper West Side. And so I have always been sort of in this dance between, kind of academic study and writing and practice and teaching and all of those things. And I eventually went back and finished my PhD as a distance program to Lancaster in the UK with Chakravarti Ramprasad. Actually, at Dr. Chappell's suggestion, we also have a sort of all of these stories intertwine. All roads lead to LMU, basically.
Well, what happened was she did this incredible textbook, and I had been a reader for it. It was published by North Point Press, and we did a
And this is a book we
6 week.
use in
There's the book,
the
yeah.
program.
And our first year cohort did a 6 week residency in New York City during our second year with Covenant House. And we provided yoga and meditation for the residents of Covenant House who were transitional, mainly people that have been released from foster care. And we did workshops for the social workers that worked there. We did workshops for, most importantly, the everyday facility staff, because they were the bedrock of this program. And it was just remarkable to be there for those weeks, to meet Zoe, and to, yeah, you never know what's going to happen in your life.
It is wild. You sort of, yes, these are the samskaras, right? The good ones.
The good ones, yeah, yeah.
That's sometimes they just, yeah, you leave these impressions and then they lead to things. And yes, so while I had my yoga studio, I wrote this textbook, which we use in this program. It's like I wrote it for this program, it feels like. And somewhere in there, I ended up here in Los Angeles, and all kinds of things have happened. I have learned to drive, which is no small feat at this point in life. I am a true New Yorker. So, if I can learn to drive and, you can take tests. You can take quizzes. That was sort of my takeaway from it is like, it's actually a really amazing thing to learn new things as a grown up. And it's quite something. You then feel really good. Um, What else do I need? What else can I tell you? What did I forget?
I think you're good. I think we could hear a little bit from Sheila and Sonia and maybe Aaron. Aaron's very busy right now. We're releasing our website for Yoga Day, and it's got all these pretty pictures and beautiful art that was created for it. And we're hoping, as we usually do, to get several hundred people to be on campus together doing yoga all day long.
So yes, if you are here in LA, please come for Yoga Day, November 8th. We will do lots of fun things.
So are you, Sheila or Sonia, are you able to unmute without crashing?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Hi. I'm in about like I'm going 10 miles an hour, so I think I'm safe. Hi. I'm sorry I can't actually see who all is here, and I apologize for missing your introductions. I got the last two people, which I'm very happy about. Hi, my name is Sheila June. And I heard Maya's intro, which I'm so happy I did, because I was in New York for 21 years doing theater, not musical theater, only when I was forced to. But theater and a little bit of film, and yoga is one of those things that we go to for the healing from everything else. And then of course, like, we all get deeper and deeper into it. And about a year ago, I accidentally came to this informational where Dr. Zoe and Dr. Chappell and others were, and it just spoke to me. And I was never planning on applying for this program. And then I showed up to Yoga Day, and there was a performer there who integrated performance and yoga, and it just kept speaking to something very deep in me. So I went deeper to see if this is the right path, and I'm so happy I applied, and I'm so happy to be a part of this world and to try to keep it brief and sincere, without trying to make them feel too good, or but like, if you are in this program, you're going to be surrounded with like the world's greatest scholars on yoga and have access to all of the most incredible information. And if you're anything like me, where you've had like a lot of experience practicing yoga but don't necessarily know what you're doing or what it means or the background, it's so rich and nourishing. And for me, it is a whole different world being in academia after being, in the performing arts, where I thought, no, I'm good with language and memorization, but it's such a different part of my mind. And I don't know who's here. I don't know how old people are. I'm 45 next week, and to be able to engage my mind like this at this time in my life is difficult, but I'm so happy I'm doing it. And I will back up Dr. Zoe and say that, Sanskrit's not something, I'm sorry, Dr. Zoe, I would have been like, yes, let me sign up for that class if it wasn't a requirement. And when I first saw the symbols, Sunya may attest, I was like, there's no way. And today, what is it? It's October, it's two months in, I'm reading, and I can just read through it, not that I understand all of it, but I can read through it. So it's really fun. It is fun. And the other thing I'll say is that, like, they're really kind. Like Dr. Zoe, Dr. Lori, Dr. Chappell, they're incredibly kind. They're incredibly gifted teachers. And I just think, like, if you want to go deeper, I don't think there's many other programs like this. So if you have that feeling, I did. Cool. I think that's it for me.
Yeah,
good?
Sheila June she's also a graduate assistant, and
Yeah.
what we are able to do, because the money question always comes up, we love veterans because the government helps out, but we know that not everybody has ability to pay. And the total tuition for the program is getting up towards 60,000. And what we're able to do is to cobble together, for people who express need, some fellowships, some grants, some assistantships. And with this, we really try to hope that people can minimize the borrowing, okay, that many students inevitably face. So, Sonia, how about, are you safe?
I am. I'm actually driving through Culver City right now. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you. What I can say, oh my gosh, that hasn't already been stated. Maybe I can speak from my experience. I did not have a traditional yoga program or experience, I should say, in a sense that I don't practice physical asanas. So if you don't have that kind of experience, please do not let it be a deterrent. Part of what really attracted me to the program is that it is very inclusive, and my interest really lied at the intersection of spirituality and Vedic astrology, especially. And for me, being really interested in that aspect, I thought that getting an undergirding in a philosophical principles was really essential. Understanding uh, where does Vedic astrology come from, and how it's informed by yoga, because you have planetary yogas. So all of those things are really very important. As far as Sanskrit, what I can say, it is such a beautiful language. It is the oldest language, and it really it is intimidating at first. It still is. I have to say, it is not easy. However, we are guided by someone, Dr. Zoe, who is very knowledgeable. So you have to trust the process and just try as best as you can to release any sort of apprehension and let her guide you. That's what I do. And to go back to what Sheila has stated, doing so, and in hindsight, we are now in October 15, and I am now able to transliterate verses and translate them. And there's nothing really more gratifying to having that freedom of interpreting text. I mean, text, and it is also very meditative, and that is a form of yoga, I have to say, because you have to really transcend any sort of frustration by not getting it right away and trust the process. And the additional things that I can state is that what is really important to me is that the professors that we have are not just faculty members. They really do care, they really do listen, and they also embody yoga. So it is not just academia, it is truly an embodiment of yoga, which I really appreciate. And they can relate to what we're wanting to learn, and they can actually shepherd us, through the process. And if you have any sort of topics or research interests that you're interested in, Dr. Chappell and Dr. Zoe have, can provide a lot of guidance. So just trust the process and don't succumb to your fears. I think it's really important, and have that confidence to see it through. Again, I didn't have that type of background coming in. I was sort of apprehensive. I, did go to grad school and did go to law school, but this is different. There's only one master's degree in yoga studies that I know of here in the States, in the US, and that is a very reputable program. So if you're thinking about it, all I can say so far for me, my experience has really been gratifying, and I highly recommend it. So that's about it.
Great.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
Like the
Thank you
verse
for
we
those
read in
affirmations.
class today, right?
Yes, yes.
A little bit of practice protects you from great fear.
Yes.
Thank you.
So let's hear a word from Aaron, and then we'll open it up for questions. And Aaron is sort of in this in between the second wave and the third wave. Her dad, like my dad, got into this in the 60s and 70s. So she's generationally three, but she's also connected to two. And Eden, who teaches the yoga teacher training, is actually connected all the way back to Yogananda. So he gets a little bit of a gold star for being part of that first wave by extension. Okay, Erin.
So I'm not winning. It's a competition, yoga, right? My name is Erin Russler, and I'm currently the administrator for the Yoga Studies Continuing Education and Support for anyone who needs it. I was also a master's graduate in 2020, and then I got a second master's in science in Ayurveda. So really excited to put up a course with the Vaidya, the doctor, Indian doctor that I've been working with for the last few years, actually through another university, Maharishi International University in Fairfield, Iowa. And we had an Ayurvedic clinic in West LA, and lots of background about that, affiliations with Loyola Marymount. And so I am also like, several traditions in thick with the yoga world. So I have my Siddha yoga background that I was somewhat born into in an ashram in Indiana. And then my upbringing and my education brought me into all kinds of different traditions of yoga and my postural practice as well. So I'm somewhat of a yoga anthropologist, and that's the way I like to look at this department too. So it's a great place to come and open and expose yourself and learn whatever you need to learn. And certainly some of the greatest academic minds I've met, because I took a long time off from school. So when I came into my master's program here, I was way behind in my even just spelling. So I know I don't, I don't have the same issues now after 6 years and 2 master's degrees, but it certainly was a challenge and a learning curve at first, but worth it. If you've been out of school for a long time, I definitely can vouch for that. And as far as Sanskrit goes, I can say the postures in Sanskrit, and someday I will audit Zoe's classes so that I can brush up on my skills. But I do appreciate the beauty of Sanskrit, and I certainly use it every day. I don't know if I use it correctly though, but I use it.
She had different Sanskrit teachers,
Yes,
so
I did. I had
several
different
different ones. So
Yes.
we've been gifted with the constancy and the consistency of Zoe now, who literally wrote the book.
Yeah.
And we did our best in those early years, but yeah.
It's not your fault. It's mine. I take full responsibility.
Well, I hope you will come audit at some point. That will be fun.
When I have free time.
Yes.
But you can always reach out to me. I'm here. I'm the yoga studies at LMU. I'm Erin.Russler at LMU. So pretty much anytime you reach out, it'll be the three of us. And we'll try to get back to you with any questions.
Great, great. So, Al, Mare, Karen, Maya, any new questions, but anything you'd like to just ask about? Yeah, Al.
Oh, I have a couple questions. First of all, I'm not scared of learning Sanskrit at all. I'm totally into that. I love languages. So that is one of the programs I thought maybe I would do the certificate because I really am interested in that, um, being a lover of languages. But I am wondering if maybe the two students might share what their thoughts are. What are you planning to do with the degree once you finish and graduate, or any thoughts on that? And then I know you mentioned all of the certificate programs. What would you remind me again, of the full um, slate of programs that you have in the certificate side as well?
Great. Well, I'll do that real quick. Yoga philosophy, yoga mindfulness, social change, yoga teacher training. Erin, help me out.
So the yoga mindfulness social change, the yoga philosophy certificate, and we have pathways for the for IAYT if you want to be a certified yoga therapist, but we're currently working on that program. So nothing is really set in stone, but you can get your postgraduate in yoga therapy, I believe, still. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different avenues. And then of course the master's program. And it's wonderful because we're an entrepreneur. And just to, I know you want to talk to the other two students, but I think I can really speak to like, what do you do with a yoga studies, master's degree? I did go and get a second master's degree because I wanted to increase my scope of practice from being a local Los Angeles yoga teacher for quite a few years and finding that my scope of practice and what I could give to students was very limited with a 200 hour and even a 300 hour for a 500. That now with even before I got this position, which is great to work at a university, but before I got this position, I used my master's degree and my certificates to teach in yoga studios, philosophy and Ayurveda. So I was equipped to go into teacher trainings and make a lot of extra money teaching like basic sutras, Sankhya, Ayurveda, all of the stuff that you could supply for a 200 hour if you work for a studio. I'm also able to give people a lot more care when I do privates. Just the anatomy, the philosophy and everything alone makes me way more equipped to take on private clients. And this is aside from the Ayurveda. This is just speaking in yoga. There's a lot of avenues, especially if you're working in treatment during the pandemic. All the studios closed and I taught in inpatient treatment centers for 17 months and as a frontline worker. So there was a lot of things that I probably would not have been able to do with just a 200-hour training. There's a lot of demand. And then you can also go into like any clinics. You can work alongside doctors and just say, hey, I'm a yoga teacher if you have, so there's a lot that can be done. It just takes a little bit of elbow grease and connections, which you have here. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, thank you, Erin. I'm on the yoga therapy track. I believe Sunya is on the philosophy track, if I'm correct. So we are it's like, I think it's philosophy track or yoga therapy track or the other things that Dr. Chappell mentioned. But with yoga therapy, just like Erin said, my hope and what I believe I'll be doing is working, I really want to work one-on-one with people. I'll work in big groups, so I want to work one-on-one with people who have trauma that lives in the body. And what I really envision is working with psychotherapists, where talk therapy only has its limits, where we have to do healing through the body. And so I'm really, really particularly interested in working with sexual trauma and anybody who has trauma that lives in the body. So I hope and I believe there will be lots of avenues with elbow grease, but I'm motivated and I've been doing my research in Los Angeles and there are several places that offer yoga therapy. So that's what I am intending to do later.
Thanks, Sheila. I think that's a beautiful endeavor. And certainly there is such a need for that, especially in LA and having worked in nonprofits. I can tell you that I was working alongside survivors of sexual trauma. I do not like to refer to them as victims, but rather as survivors. And that was definitely something highly sought, yoga therapy, especially. Now, for myself, I am currently enrolled in the certificate program, the philosophy track. My ideal objective would be to pursue a PhD, but that's a lofty goal. I'm still very new, so whether or not that is possible, given how competitive the landscape is, remains to be seen. But with all that, you can do so much more. So I was raised in France, actually. And so my goal would be to utilize the knowledge that I have acquired to organize yoga retreats as an organizer from the programmatic end of things, and also leading Jyotisha retreats too as well. And being able to import that knowledge, because we're in LA too as well. And LA is really the capital of wellness and yoga here in the US. I feel some people may disagree with me, but there's so much happening, and just being able to make connections. And this is definitely the program for that will, I feel, help me branch out to Europe and import the knowledge and the various trends that we're learning here to a European audience. So this is pretty much it for me.
Very good, very good. Okay, I want to move on to Mary's question. What is the process and timeline for applying, getting accepted, and beginning the program? So there's a button and it says apply, and it brings you into a program called Slate. And in this process, you'll need to write why you're interested in the program. You'll also need to respond to an encyclopedia article by Professor Sladoff or a book chapter by Professor Chappell that shows that you can, and remember this, that you can quote somebody else's words, cite them, and respond to them. You also need 2 letters of recommendation, and we recognize that there are many people that have been away from academia for a long time. So, like, probably not your mom, but maybe the person that you know in the yoga world, and people that can give us a sense, not be terribly long. You'll need to request your transcripts from your other institutions, your BA, and if you have other degrees, for them to be uploaded. And then we also ask for a 5-minute video. A lot of people just read their personal statement, and I really recommend not doing that, adding something new into the video. And we receive all of that, and when it's all there, our email lights up. We have someone for you to review, and 2 different faculty members, and we have many other faculty members that aren't on screen today, but we have an evaluative process that as director I'll take into account and then either say thumbs up or thumbs down. Usually if people go through all of the trouble to apply for a Master of Arts in Yoga Studies, it's pretty much thumbs up. And then we will send notice and invitation, and at the same time encourage you to file what is needed, the federal financial aid statement, if that's appropriate, and an application for financial support. And then the beginning of the program will happen in August, in mid-August, and everybody comes together in person for 2 weeks, and we're together 6 hours a day, and we go through the guidance. I lead a yoga session every morning and lead the field trips on the weekend. And then Professor Slatoff leads the academic part of it, gives you a taste of Sanskrit, has you, I think, still make little presentations on Professor Sarbacher's book, Tracing the Path of Yoga, gets you launched on writing a paper that you will complete over a process of months. And then Monday, last Monday of August, is when the fall semester begins. So Karen asked, does the postgraduate certificate in yoga therapy include Sanskrit? Now, the postgraduate certificate is only accessible to people who have completed a master's degree in a related field and have extensive yoga experience. So for some people, if they've gone through RMA program, yeah, you will have had your 3 semesters of Sanskrit. But there may be other people that have like a degree in physical therapy or in your case, as I recall, a degree in psychotherapy, if I'm not confusing things. And you could sort of sidestep the Sanskrit. And what we offer, and Zoe will speak to this, is that there's a certificate level Sanskrit that Al may even want to experiment with, and Zoe will explain that and maybe give the timeline for that.
Sure. Yeah, I teach. So after I wrote the book, I started teaching Sanskrit classes through the Oxford Center for Hindu Studies, which is where I still teach the courses through. They are mostly pre-recorded, although we have a bi-weekly Zoom session for Q&A, and it goes at a slower pace than we do here in the master's program. And so sometimes people actually start with that just to kind of, get their feet wet a little, and then still do it again in the master's program. Sanskrit 1, I will find the link and put it in the chat, but Sanskrit 1 will start in April. And then they kind of go from there. See if I can find it. And yeah, they go a bit slower. You do homework. I grade your homework. There's a forum for questions. And you will get to see my former yogashala where I filmed all the
Oh,
sessions, and it's quite. I actually only planned to do one. I did one sort of thinking, oh, I'll just do an intro class. And the first time there were 130 people signed up. And because it's sort of asynchronous, unlike our program, anybody can do it anywhere on their own time. It's been quite something. And I've now been teaching those since 2017, I think. So yeah, it's now part of our certificate course, and it's a good way to just kind of get started if you want a taste of it. It is sort of, a similar thing to what we do here, but just yeah, at a slower pace. I found the link. I will put it in the chat. And yeah, also for my book, which I'm working on a second edition, which it might not quite be out by April, but it will almost be out by April. It's coming out in the spring. So I will see. We will see. I will also put my email in the chat. If anybody has further questions, you are welcome to email me about Sanskrit or anything else. I'm also associate director, and if you need help filling out the application or thinking about what you're going to do, I'm happy to help you do that also.
these are great questions.
Yes. Any other questions?
I guess I have one more. So if I was looking at, say, doing the master's at LMU versus something like through Kripalu, what would be your recommendation or thoughts on the differences in the two options if I was interested in the yoga therapy particularly?
Yeah, the degree option just opens professional doors that are not absolutely required in the yoga space, but allow you to land in spaces such as universities that otherwise you just are sort of the nice person that has this hobby. I mean, not that, I mean, Kripalu, that's Amrit Desai, and they'd have that whole history and story. They do really, really solid, wonderful work there. That would be, I would say, the main difference. What would you say, Zoe?
I mean, I do think, having a master's degree opens doors, and, often you don't know what those doors are until you do it. I mean, partly in terms of just the things that happen during the process, but also, you can have a master's degree in yoga studies, but still people respect a master's degree in other things. And, so it sort of adds depth to whatever it is that you kind of decide to do. And like I said, I think for many of our students, that develops while they're in the program. And so there are things that you just, might not know. I mean, I wasn't, as I've said, like I really tried to quit academia so many times, and and yet I've ended up here, and it's been this sort of journey where, one thing has led to the next thing that if I didn't do each thing, it wouldn't have happened. And I do feel like yoga's like that, it's like you follow that gut feeling. We can call it dharma or whatever, that feeling of like, oh, I meant to do this. And then all of a sudden there's another one of those and another one of those. And I think, when I first went to India, it was sort of following that feeling. And then, coming here was following that feeling. Sometimes your head does like, what? That doesn't really make sense. But it's like, it's more of a gut feeling. I wrote a short story when I was 8 years old about following the green lights and and a picture book. I've recently found it. And there's something to, when you have that feeling of like, oh, something feels right, and you just sort of follow it, and then you kind of often figure out those other things later because you don't know what the next green light is. So
Yeah, we
there's a
just read. Yeah.
Can I
just a
speak
Okay,
to
teeny bit
that
of
Karen.
too, real quick?
faith.
I
Yeah.
would like to speak to that as someone who came from a master's program and then decided to follow a specific tradition for further education. And correct me if I'm wrong about Kripalu, but it's a singular tradition, isn't it? Whereas what we offer here is multiple perspectives of many, many different traditions. So when I said I'm a yoga anthropologist, I feel like I have access to all of the knowledge from all of these different places. And not that my master's in science wasn't of value to me going through one specific tradition, but I did find it to be somewhat limiting in what they were allowing me to be able to give, offer, teach, if that makes sense. When you get into a specific tradition or a lineage, I guess, if you want to say that, you do have some constraints of that tradition. And especially in modern times with the capitalist model of business, all of these seem to fall under, and we're not really much different, but at least what we offer is a broader perspective of multiple traditions, which I think stays true to what Dr. Chappell started with, which is the Jainism, which is Anekantavada, which is multiple perspectives. And I don't think without that, like the other stuff would have ever really made sense to me. So I find that having the masters is certainly like opening many, many different doors as opposed to one path.
Yeah. Thank
Can I
you.
respond
We'll
to
just
that too?
sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Can I just echo that really quickly? I'm sorry to jump in. I love this question because I actually almost applied to the Shivananda yoga therapy track like 5 years ago, and just basically echoing what Erin said was like, yes, I definitely could have done that, and I'm sure it would have been wonderful. And I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn everything I could possibly learn about yoga, which is basically what Erin just said. And I don't think with with Shivananda or anything that's one lineage, you're going to learn all of those things. So that's all. I just yeah.
No, thank you. And I will just, it's one of the things that I love being here. I mean, I do come from a specific lineage in terms of my practice and, the yoga that I'm sort of retired from teaching yoga, but when I do and when I did, but it's one of the things that I love about being here is that everybody in our program is both a scholar and practitioner. And so you learn, not just from us, but from your fellow students. And, I think everybody within each cohort builds connections. And so, yeah, you're getting all of these different perspectives rather than just this kind of one more narrow viewpoint.
Yeah, I was just going to add that we just wrapped up our Jung segment of the comparative mysticism course. And as I opened, I said, my degree was Sanskrit and Buddhism and psychology of religion and the Jungian encounter with symbol, archetype in quest for meaning. So that when Sonia is talking about astrology, what I'm doing is going to the deep structures of the archetypes that really guide us. And one of the things that I really emphasize from my own experience is the importance of keeping a dream journal and just allowing that attentiveness to dream be an important component in the decision-making process. And in my own case, my decisions were made for me because I would have these dreams that then eventually I would just sort of walk into. So I've not been really plagued with fear or doubt, and I attribute some of that to, or a great deal of it, to the coaching that I got from my own parents. That the surface is okay. It's the depth that really moves us. So hope that little bit of woo-woo was something good to end on. So it's really been lovely. As you can tell, we just are really in love with the place, in love with the program. And it's been such an incredible gift to be able to share what we've been shaped by. So hope you can join us, at least for Yoga Day.
Yes, yeah. And again, if anybody wants, feel free to be in touch. If anybody wants to sit in on a class, you're also welcome to do that, either in person or in Zoom. Yeah, we are here for you. Let us know. And we hope to see you. Nice.